example translations that how it can be different when when translator choose to go closer to the source language text, or you can also choose to go closer to the target language. Let's take an example. The first Korean sentence. Second, 이걸 I'd like to ask one Korean student to read the Korean text. So in this case, this is I would say A-B translation. That means A is mother tongue, B is the foreign language. So we would say A-B translation. So as you see, this is what is source language text? That is Korean. What is the target language? That is English. So you must decide whether it should be faithful to the meaning of the source language, Korean language, or you should go closer to the effects to the target language audiences. So I'd like to ask 나경원 to read this Korean sentence. 자, then if you decide to closer, so I would say someone like close the source language test, then how can we translate? So I would say this is always true. This is just example translation. I will write it down. So what's the difference between is there? If you say the 추세입니다 하면 there is a trend. There is a Korean context. But we change it, the subject change. So we say the fewer international conference. So this is example of you can change the syntax of Korean language. Subject change. So that means a modulation, 변조. So in this case, as you know, the Korean syntax is Korean and English are syntactically different. So if you choose to be faithful to Korean syntax, then there is a trend. But if you want to be the more fluent, then fewer international conferences are using more than 3 languages. So the translation strategy uses modulation. What is the modulation? That is conversion of grammar. So this is example translation if you choose to be closer to the syntax of Korean language. I'd like to ask Baker, would you please write the English text, translate the text? Baker, she's not here. Patricia, would you please read it?
The same is true in Korea globally. There are more people who can speak English, so there are less need for interpretation. It is their language that the independent job itself can disappear.
Okay, so let me take another translation. So this is an example translation if you choose to be more closer to the English syntax. So you can see the difference. How is the difference is here? The same is true with Korea. It's okay, but we can add some implied word. There is a trend. And sometimes we must add just to make it sound very fluent. And also we can see another change. What is change? The subject change. So what is the 주어 is here? More people. But in here, so what is subject here? The increase in English speakers. This is the subject. So this is one of the major difference between English and Korean. I would say in English, this is an example of a non-human subject. In another word, a non-human subject means 무생물 주어. So in Korean, we seldom use a non-human subject. But in English, there is a lot of non-human subject. So non-human subject with 무생물 주어가 so frequently used, so it's that one of the reasons Korean translators, they must very carefully. So this is the increase in English speakers. This is subject. So that means we use another modulation. We change the grammar. So we change the subject. So may cause demand for interpreter to reduce. And also, so the job can disappear. So it's okay, it's good enough. But we can also say a little bit written English, we would say they eventually make it obsolete. So we will make this useless. We will no longer use. We will no longer use the interpreters. So we can see that there are three strategies we use. First of all, in English, please remember, we can change the subject and by using the non-human subject. And the second one is we can split one long sentence into two short sentences. So in English sentence, each sentence should contain only one idea. But in Korean language, we keep writing. So in Korean language, the idea flows like water. So the sentence can be long. But in English, it's a very logical language. So the one sentence should contain one idea. So sometimes it is necessary to split a long Korean sentence into two or several shorter Englishes, so that it can sound more English, more like English. And also another thing we notice is proverb. In Korean language, we seldom use proverb. What is a pronoun? I would say the pronoun, 대명사. In Korean, we seldom use pronoun. 그녀는 예쁘다. 이런 말 없어요. 걔 예쁘다. 예쁘다. 너는 예쁘다. 그죠? His, he, her, I, yours, I, you, he, she, they, we. They are the pronouns. But in Korean, we avoid using pronoun. But English, the pronoun is very important. So in English, pronoun is frequently used. Maybe that's because of influence of Latin language. So Latin, so we can add is here, it is. So we added the pronoun, the possessive pronoun is and it. So we can see there is addition of pronouns when we translate it from Korean to English. So this is example, the translation, if you try to be faithful to the meaning of a source text. So I'd like to ask Rosa, would you please read it?
If an excellent translation machine is available, it may be for a particular area or register, but it is the job of interpreters to fully translate a dynamic and
there is many typo. Anyway, 자, here's 역동적인이 뭐죠? dynamic, 그죠? 미묘한, subtle. 그 다음에 register가 어역입니다. So register is the language expression that depends on the situation. So that depends on the context. So you can express differently depending on the varying situation. That is 어역, the register. So, then let's try again. This time we'll try to sound a little bit more free. So I'd like you to pay attention. So how synthetically different. So you can see there is another modulation is here. So you put there is a non-human. There is a conversion of this grammar. So you can find any excellent translation machine. This is a phrase. This is a noun phrase. So if you faithful is here, if an excellent translation machine is available, this is a clause. In other words, this is a sentence. In other words, this is a SVC or SVO. So this is clause. I would say this is sentence. As you say, the basic structure of English is, as you already studied in TOEFL, SV, SVO, SVC, or SVOO, SVCO. This is the basic structure of English. But in Korean, there is a difference. In Korean, the basic unit of expression is sentence. But in English, the basic unit of a sentence is a phrase. That means 단어 덩어리. Then what does it mean, phrase? Phrase means more than 2 words. So, but English is the phrase, 단어 덩어리, that is the basic unit of expression. But in Korea, it is often used as sentence. That means SV. Or we can use anyway, the sentence is the basic unit of expression. So that's why there is a difference here. An excellent translation is subject, a machine is a subject, and is a verb, and available is C. So this is a typically SVC clause. This is Korean grammar, the Korean syntax. But how can we change it in English? We change it any excellent translation machine. In English, this is a phrase. So we can see the change when you translate from Korean to English. Sometimes it works if you try to translate the Korean clause into English phrase. So this would sound more fluent to the English speakers. So an excellent translator word, So. And also, please notice this although. He's here. So this is why sometimes the although means this is when you try to moderate the negative tone, you don't want to emphasize the certain point, then you can say the although. You don't want to highlight the point, then you can say the clause that starts from although. Then it's not so important, although. So this is an example of that addition that sometimes the translator can add some connecting word to send a message that this is not so important. So in another word, the translator, when they want to moderate the tone, then you can say such kind of connecting word, although. No, there's nothing wrong. It's okay. But I would say if you are an interpreter, sometimes it's better with the speed. It's better with the time. So sometimes you make it short as soon as possible, as long as you can keep its message intact. So let's take another example that is intended to make it shorter and to the point. 그쵸? So you can see the difference. So this is shorter, but you can see that the English, and in the English context, this is the use of adjective, 부사. So if you use the adjectively, sometimes we use the objectively effectively to enrich. For example, deeply understand is better than we have a better understanding. We have a better understanding. And also we have expression, you can find the better expression. Grammatically, it has nothing wrong, it's okay now. But it's a matter of effect. So it's a matter of fluency. And also it's a matter of time and speed. And besides, it's very important, English is the verb. The English language itself is a verb-oriented language. That means the use of a verb is central to English expression. In another word, the verb creates impact. For example, the deeply understand is more create a bigger impact than have a deep understanding. So you can say the verb itself. In Korean, sometimes Korean is noun-oriented and English is verb-oriented. Please use, if you use the verb, then you can create impact. So we can see the difference. The first thing is, so the original Korean text, how many sentences is it? Just one sentence. This is typically Korean. So it's okay to be Korean, to be long. However, in English, we cannot translate into one sentence. So we must split it. So the basis is the idea unit. So each one sentence should have one message. So that's why we split into 1, 2, and 3 sentences. So what's the difference? In this internet time, it's faithful, but that means with the internet used. And also, that is more important, that's good, but we can also use come before. It's more important. And also, here, which is more important, that what's the meaning? So what the meaning of the Korean message? That means that interpreter should be more fluent in Korean than in English. That means that interpreter should be more fluent in their mother tongue than in the foreign language. And we also need this in addition. This is the difference between Korean and English. English is very logical, so it should be clear about the flow of an idea. So with English, they often use this connecting word. For example, we can say first, then, next, finally, when you express the chronological order. And also, we can say under cause and effect, because, as a result, in this way. So, in addition, so English often use the connecting word, but in Korean, we seldom use that connecting word. We don't need it. Why? Because Korean language itself is implied. It tends to be implied. In another word, Korean language tends to be implicit, 함축된. So, but English language, on the other hand, should be explicit. So everything should be clearly expressed. But in Korean, but they don't have to be explicit. The message can be implied. So that's why when we translate in English, we must add some connecting words like in addition. And also, we can see another difference is from which Korean come. So what's the difference is the sources. So you can see the difference. The Chinese is a source language. They use the be verb. But here we change it and come from. So this is one of the difference between English and Korean. For example, 너 고향이 어디니? 그러면 in Korean, how would you say? What is your hometown? 그죠? What is your hometown 하면 we can easily understand. But when American ask 고향이 어디니? 그럼 어떻게 물어요? Where do you come from? So they use come. 그죠? So hometown은 noun이에요. 그죠? It's a noun. But English, they ask, where do you come from? They use the verb come 쓴단 말이에요. That's the difference. So that's why we call the Korean language is noun. They often use noun. What's your hometown? 너 직업이 뭐니? What's your job? But English, they say, what do you work? work를 쓴단 말이에요. 너 고향이 어디니? What's your hometown? But English, where do you come from? 그치? 그거 너 보스가 누구니? 그럴 때 who is your boss? 하죠? 근데 English is what do you say? To whom do you report? Report. They use the verb report 쓴단 말이에요. We don't understand. 그죠? So that's why we call the Korean language sometimes and they often use noun, but in English they often use the verb. So so it was interesting to find that you have a very different reasons to take course. Some students, they want to take this course because they want to improve English, and sometimes many students, they have some part-time experiences as working as interpreter and translator. So you can see that actually the translator or interpreting job is usually a second choice. That means that there is full-time, that we might ask that, is there any full-time translator or full-time interpreter? It's very difficult to find that. So let me share my experience. So I just like English then, when I was young, that I just want to meet the foreigners, Americans. So the first that, so it was kind of a guide. I worked as a guiding interpreter. For example, if they're French businessmen that visited Korea, then I bring them and go around factory and company, and they have an interview with the Korean managers and interpret. And sometimes that there is a French people come over here, then at that time a little bit of a French, so that I interpreted French and English. That was guiding. And also, I was the first thing is part-time interpreter. Part-time interpreter, translator. When I was a graduate school of interpretation, so I used to go 3 times a week to, at that time there was a Sanofi. So Sanofi is a French company, so nowadays it's a French company. There was a Hungarian vice president. So sometimes they need the interpreter to, when they talk to the people from the factory or labor union. So we have some labor dispute, so I had to interpret for him when they sit down with any labor unionist from factory. So this is part-time. And also, so there is also in-house. Would you say in-house translator or interpreter? So what does it mean? So sometimes nowadays, many companies, they don't want a part-time translator. Why? Because they have their own language and they need someone who knows very well about their company, organization, and each company has their own language. So they want to hire the full-time interpreter or translator, and they have a special position. Okay, so in this case, there are 2 cases. The in-house translators, then there is a government agency and the business. So if you are interested more in money, then you should be hired for the business, like Hyundai or Hyundai Capital or AG, and they usually have a full-time interpreters. There's an in-house translator. And and the government agency, if you want to build your career, it's better to get a job with the government agency, but they paid much less. So I don't know how much nowadays, but I remember 5 years ago, I used to send one of my students to government agency. At that time, it was only 200만 원? It was 5 years ago. Maybe nowadays 200만 원. But if you work for the business, that the salary could be double or the triple, much higher. So what is good about in-house trend? But you can also choose freelance. But some of the interpreters, they don't want to belong to any organization. Sometimes they choose to be freelance interpreter. Why? Because there are some reasons. They need to be flexible time. They don't want to belong to organization, and they need some. So the freelancer, the good thing is one freelancer. The good thing is sometimes it's financially better off. For example, the freelancer, they must prove confident, because it's like a battle. If you're interpreter, at first that you must prove your ability. If you go to the conference, then you don't. If you do not interpret well, then they will never call you back. So each time is a challenge. Each time is like a battle. So the more you are confident and the more you prove your ability as an interpreter, they will continue to be called. So they will get more and more jobs. So they can be financially better off. But there is a risk. There is a seasonal up and down. 그죠? 자, 프리랜서는 바쁠 때는 엄청 바쁘고 한가할 땐 잡이 없는 거야. So sometimes a freelancer, when there is no call at all. So you must stay for 1 or 2 or 3 months without working. But sometimes if your work comes together, they all will come together. So you have to make a choice. So there is a risk up and down cycle. But in-house translators, you have the stability. Instead, the payment is relatively low. And I also used to work as a project translator. So the company has some project. For example, the HR project, they sometimes launch a new project, HRS or IT project. For each project is formed, the company formed a task team. And the task team is usually Korean managers, and they need interpreters or translators. So I used to work as for example, I make a 3-month contract or 2-month contract as a project translator or interpreter. For example, I can work the HRS project for Samsung or a consulting company. So I also worked for the quality assurance project for Hyundai subsidiary. So in this way, there is a project. Sometimes you can work for the project translator. So as a translator, and also, so we're talking about the translator. So translator, the Yewan said it doesn't make much money, but it also depends on the speed. And you can translate fast, then you can, if you have the reputation, wow, Yewan is a good translator, then we will continue to have the call from your customers, and the older is the better. Then I would say the interpreter has a life limitation. For example, the consecutive interpreter. 순차 통역. So consecutive interpretation, as you know, that is in a press conference, or there is speakers here, he is talking 1 or 2 minutes, then consecutive intervals stand together, and they listen for 2 minutes, and then they translate it. 그죠? 그래서 순차 통역, 그죠? So, the 순차 통역 is should performer. He should be a good public performer. He should talk confidently. So there is some kind of confidence and professional poise that the consecutive interpreter should have. But for example, the consecutive interpreter, there is some, I would say, they say that there is some limit. So the clients, they usually prefer they are looking at someone who looks pleasant and who's very cheerful and very positive energy, and he should be a performer, so they should be young enough. So there is age limit. Then how about simultaneous interpreting? It depends, I would say. For example, so I think that there is age limit, and this is the prime time for the simultaneous. I personally feel, I don't say it is true, but I personally feel that a professional, the simultaneous interpreter in their time, the prime time could be in their 30s or 40s. But I would say it depends. Why? Because it depends on the experience. It depends on the specialization, knowledge. For example, if you start to interpret about SAP technology from when you are 20 or 25, then if you continue to SAP translation, then you are become an expert. If you become an expert, nobody can replace you. There is no age limit. There is no competition. Once you build expertise on a particular area. Let me take an example. There is one of my classmates, I wouldn't say 그 이름이 생각나는데, there was one student, he was very good at translating some Christian books. So he just continued to translating only the Christian related books. Now he is an expert. And there is no limit. And he kept working. And he's working harder and harder, and he's making a lot of money because there is nobody who can replace him. When it comes to the expertise in translating his area, there is no rival. So you can see that there are two choices. There is interpreter or translators. Maybe the first time you might be difficult and maybe challenging, but the more you have experience, the more confident you become. And the more confident we become, then the more expertise we will have, then there will be no rival. Once you have expertise, and once you have a translation skill secured, and once you have enough networking with the clients, and once you have enough networking with your peer groups, then I would say the translation career is not always gloomy. So it all depends on how longer you are committed. But in many cases, as I said, the translation is not full-time, it's a second choice. As Douglas Robinson said, translation is something like a second choice. For example, if you have your own full-time job, but sometimes you have your pop song or you have your interesting area, then this is a part-time distraction. So you can spend, you can work over weekend, then you can enjoy your time, the translation. For example, if you leave your job or sometimes you leave your country and you come traveling abroad, then you can translate it. So in most cases, translating, it doesn't have to be full-time. So it is a part-time choice. So in many cases, the translation or interpreting is in many cases are the job of a second choice. If you have something that you have a first professional job, it is a translation or interpreting can always be your second choice of work. But there is a condition, 3 conditions. What was 3 conditions? The client wants you to be fast and reliable and cheaply. So I think that that wraps my lecture. Then I'd like to give one Korean English sentence, so that each team will translate English from Korean. Okay. So I'd like to invite anyone from Team 1. Would you please come over and translate? Please present your teamwork output. 자, 영어로 읽고, 자. You're not yet done? Any team finish it? So this is a matter of speed, how fast you can translate it. So it's a choice between accuracy and speed, and sometimes you must sacrifice accuracy for speed. So this is the case, the speed comes before accuracy. Not bad, 좋아요. 그런데 특징이 뭐예요? 영어에 보면 there are pronoun, 그죠? 그들은 they 혹은 their argument. In Korean, we can avoid using pronoun이에요. 자, 대문자 빼면 어떻게 되죠? 그냥 빼버려도 돼. We don't have to use pronoun when we translate in Korean. For example, you can say that 유령 존재를 믿지 않는 사람들에게는 유령이 나타나지 않는 것이 그 이유다. So if you translate this way, you can find there is no pronoun in Korean, even though there is pronoun in English. So thank you. 다 같이 let me begin. So this is an example. Then, so I uploaded this file on our class site here. So I'd like you to read it. So some of the students have already printed it out. So I uploaded to today's translation practice on our class site. You can find it. So I'd like to wrap up my class by announcing the next class's task. Next class we are going to do, so the English people is here. Here. So we are going to talk about 7 people who contributed to the development of English. So there are 7 paragraphs. So who fixed it, who kept it, who empowered it, who popularized it. So I'd like you to read it just to get the idea and the message, so that we are going to use this text to practice consecutive interpretation, 순차 통역. So I'd like to get ready to get the message of just the 7 people. So it will proceed this way. One student will read it in English. Then I will appoint another student, stand together. Then if you one student read in English, that means he's the speaker of these 5 people. The other student stand next to him, and he will interpret to him consecutively without seeing the text. So that means you should at least get the message of this text. That's why I already uploaded this file on our class site. So let's call it a day and have a nice day.